Before the world spoke of billionaires, banks, and modern empires, there was a king whose wealth seemed impossible to measure. His name was Mansa Musa. He ruled the Mali Empire, a powerful West African kingdom built on gold, trade, faith, learning, and desert routes that connected Africa to the wider world. To outsiders, Mali sounded almost like a legend, a land where gold moved through markets, caravans crossed the Sahara, and kings ruled from cities of power and knowledge. But Mansa Musa was not only rich, he understood that wealth could become a message. Gold could buy armies, gold could build cities, gold could impress rulers, gold could make the world remember your name. And in the 14th century, Mansa Musa would begin a journey so spectacular that people in distant lands would speak of him for centuries. He would cross the desert not quietly, not secretly, but like a living announcement. Africa had an empire of gold, and the world was about to see it. The Mali Empire was not built on fantasy. It was built on land, trade, strategy, and control. Gold from West Africa moved across long routes toward North Africa and the Mediterranean world. Salt, another treasure of the desert, traveled in the opposite direction. Caravans carried goods, news, faith, books, and power across the Sahara. Mansa Musa inherited an empire already rich, but under him it became even more famous. Mali's influence stretched across important trade routes, and cities such as Timbuktu and Gao grew in importance as centers of commerce and culture. National Geographic notes that during Musa's reign, Mali was among Africa's richest kingdoms, and that he developed Timbuktu and Gao into important cultural centers. To control such an empire, a king needed more than gold. He needed authority. He needed alliances. He needed loyal officials, armies, merchants, and spiritual legitimacy. Mansa Musa understood this deeply. His empire was wealthy, but wealth alone was not enough. It had to be displayed, organized, protected, and remembered. And soon he would display it in a way no one expected. In 1324, Mansa Musa made a decision that would turn him from a powerful African ruler into a world legend. He would perform the pilgrimage to Mecca. For a Muslim ruler, the journey was an act of faith, but for a king like Mansa Musa, it was also a diplomatic and political event. He would not travel as an ordinary pilgrim. He would travel as the Emperor of Mali, carrying the wealth, dignity, and power of his kingdom across the desert. The journey would be dangerous. The Sahara was not gentle. Heat could kill. Thirst could break men. Sandstorms could erase paths. Bandits and exhaustion could destroy even the strongest caravan. But Mansa Musa prepared on a scale that shocked anyone who saw it. Servants, soldiers, officials, merchants, animals, supplies, and gold were gathered. Some later accounts describe a huge entourage, often said to have included tens of thousands of people. Exact numbers vary, but the message is clear. This was not only a pilgrimage, it was a royal procession across the world. When Mansa Musa's caravan began to move, it must have looked like a golden river crossing the earth. Camels stepped into the desert. Guards rode beside them. Servants carried supplies. Officials watched the order of the march. Gold traveled with the emperor, guarded and displayed, not hidden like stolen treasure, but shown like proof of divine favor and imperial power. Imagine standing on a dune and seeing the line stretch beyond the eye, dust rising, silk moving in the wind, metal shining under the sun, camels groaning beneath their loads, voices calling across the sand. This was wealth transformed into theater. Every stop became a story. Every village and city that saw the caravan understood that Mali was not a distant, poor land at the edge of the world. It was a kingdom with resources, discipline, and ambition. The desert was no longer only a barrier. For Mansa Musa, it became a stage, and he crossed it like the richest king alive. When Mansa Musa reached Cairo, the city witnessed something it would never forget. Cairo was already one of the great cities of the medieval world, crowded, powerful, wealthy, and connected to trade from many lands. Its rulers had seen ambassadors, merchants, warriors, scholars, and princes. But Mansa Musa arrived with a spectacle of wealth that stunned observers. He gave generously. he spent freely. Gold moved through Cairo's markets, streets, and courts. Stories spread quickly about the king from Mali whose caravan carried riches beyond imagination. Britannica notes that his pilgrimage to Mecca awakened the world to Mali's wealth and stimulated desire among North Africans and Europeans to locate its source. Some accounts claim that the amount of gold he distributed affected local gold values for years, though historians debate the scale of that economic impact. What matters for the story is certain. Cairo remembered him, and through Cairo, the wider world began to remember Mali. After Cairo, Mansa Musa continued toward Mecca. The journey was not simply about gold, it was about faith, status, and connection. By completing the pilgrimage, Mansa Musa placed himself within the wider Islamic world. He was not only a ruler of distant Mali, he was a Muslim emperor recognized across regions of scholarship, trade, and belief. On the road, he met people who carried stories, books, ideas, and influence. His wealth impressed them, but his journey also connected Mali more strongly to the intellectual and religious networks of the medieval world. A king can conquer with armies, but Mansa Musa conquered memory through movement. Every mile made his name travel farther. Every city repeated the story. Every witness became part of his legend. By the time he reached Mecca, he had done more than complete a sacred duty. He had carried Mali onto the mental map of the world. The empire of gold was no longer hidden behind the Sahara. It had arrived. Mansa Musa's greatness was not only in what he spent, it was also in what he built. After his pilgrimage, Mali's reputation grew, and cities such as Timbuktu became even more important. Timbuktu was not merely a desert city, it became associated with trade, learning, books, mosques, scholars, and intellectual life. Mansa Musa is remembered for supporting construction and learning, including major architectural projects connected to Timbuktu. Britannica states that he built the Great Mosque at Timbuktu and left a realm notable for its extent and riches. This is what separates a wealthy ruler from a historic one. Gold can vanish, but knowledge can echo for centuries. Under Mali's influence, scholars copied manuscripts. Students studied law, theology, language, and science. Traders brought goods, but scholars brought ideas. Mansa Musa's empire became a place where wealth and learning stood together. The world came for gold, but it also found books. Mansa Musa's journey changed how distant lands imagined Mali. Before him, many outside West Africa knew little about the empire. After his pilgrimage, Mali became famous as a land of astonishing wealth. Stories of the Golden King traveled through North Africa, the Middle East, and eventually Europe. Maps began to reflect the legend. In later European cartography, Mansa Musa was famously shown as a crowned African ruler holding a golden object, seated in West Africa. To the mapmakers, he symbolized the gold wealth of Mali and the mystery of its source. That image mattered. It showed that Mansa Musa had turned his empire into a global idea. He did not only rule land, he ruled imagination. People who had never walked through Timbuktu, never crossed the Niger, never entered Mali's markets, still pictured a king of gold in West Africa. That is the power of reputation. A caravan can end. A legend can keep traveling. No ruler lives forever. Mansa Musa died sometime in the 1330s, and after him the Mali Empire continued, but no golden age lasts unchanged. Power shifted, rivals grew, trade routes changed. Internal struggles and outside pressures slowly weakened what had once seemed almost untouchable. But this does not make his story smaller, it makes it more human. Empires rise through strength, wealth, geography, and leadership. They decline through time, pressure, mistakes, and forces no ruler can fully control. Mali's later decline reminds us that even the richest kingdoms must fight to survive after their greatest leaders are gone. Yet Mansa Musa left more than treasure behind. He left a name. He left stories of gold. He left Timbuktu's memory as a place of knowledge. He left proof that medieval Africa was not silent, empty, or isolated, but deeply connected to trade, faith, learning, and world history. The empire changed, but the legend remained. Mansa Musa's story still matters because it challenges how history is often told. Too often, Africa is spoken of only through poverty, conquest, or tragedy. But the Mali Empire tells another story, a story of gold, scholarship, cities, trade, diplomacy, and power. Mansa Musa did not shock the world because he was rich alone. He shocked the world because his wealth revealed a civilization many outsiders had ignored. His pilgrimage was a journey of faith, but also a declaration. It told Cairo, Mecca, North Africa, and Europe that West Africa was not outside history, it was part of it. The king of Mali crossed the desert with gold, but the greatest thing he carried was proof. Proof that empires could rise south of the Sahara. Proof that knowledge could flourish in desert cities. Proof that history is larger than the stories most people are taught. Mansa Musa died centuries ago, but the golden shadow of his empire still shines.